good afternoon from a different setting. We decided we'd show you a little bit of the garden.
You can listen to the birds.
Very loud birds at the moment. I don't know what's going on there, but they're chirping like anything. Anyway, welcome to the video and today's episode. This time we're going to be looking at the insulation which we've done in the van, and also hopefully helping anybody who's looking to do something similar with lots of lessons that we've learned.
We actually learned a lot of lessons. It was actually quite a difficult one for us, this one, and took a lot of time and effort.
And as you'll see, sort of being the abominable snowman in Abu Dhabi. So yes, January we created snow in Abu Dhabi. And we've got sharks in the video too, so something quite different there.
Yeah, we created a Winter Wonderland with our van, which unfortunately we had done just after Christmas. If we had done it before Christmas, I'm sure we could have actually let our van out to different places for a Winter Wonderland, because it really looked really, really beautiful. But it was a lot of work to get rid of, as we'll show you in the video.
So we sprayed it with polyurethane foam.
Lots of foam.
Which, as you spray it, comes out as pure liquid, which is mixed in the nozzle as it is sprayed. So it reacts as while it's actually on the surface of, in our case, the wall or the roof, and then expands into a solid. And as you'll see, unfortunately, we didn't get too much of the spraying in because the chemicals there were going all over the place, and the phone that we're using to video this on did not like being covered in that chemical. As it is, my clothes and that got stuff on and almost had to be thrown away, or became work clothes. I think that's about it. So we get on to the video and show you where we are and how much further we've progressed. Looking back at it, as we put these videos together for you, it is very informative to actually see how far we have come and what has been done. So this is a good record and motivation for us as well. We hope you are enjoying it, and if you do, please hit the subscribe button in YouTube. Really does help us, and we are really looking to try and grow this channel, but at the moment we're not getting too much. The feedback we're getting is positive, but we're not getting very much. So yeah, to make it worthwhile for us, let us know if you are actually liking what we're putting together, and give us any constructive comments that you can of how and why we should change things. So thanks very much, and well, enjoy the video.
Thank you.
So before taking the van in for insulation, we just had to cover the areas that we didn't want to be insulated, and we did this with plastic sheets and just masking tape. So you can see we've done some of the door, I've done some of the bottom parts of the van and the front part of the van. And John can take over.
Here they're busy applying the polyurethane foam. You'll see some there on the top right has been applied. If you see, he sprays it onto the roof, and it comes out as a pure liquid, as I said. You can see it's yellow there where it comes out, and it turns white as it cures and expands. The two liquids are actually mixed right in the nozzle of his spray gun.
Took about 2 hours to do?
Yeah, about 2 to 3 hours for the whole van. This is the first time this guy has done a van, so between the two of us we had quite a learning exercise to do. And if we had to redo it, I think both of us would do things quite differently. There you can see how white it comes once it has cured. He felt he was being very generous and in most places way oversprayed what was needed, and unfortunately we then landed to have cut it off. Here in the top left-hand corner you can see he sprayed into the void there, and you can see the foam expanding out of it.
We did make a mistake of not covering the side door properly, and so when we got the van back we actually couldn't open the side door because that had been covered.
This polyurethane sticks like anything.
But we broke it open eventually.
We didn't break it. We got rid of the foam and got the mechanisms working again. So yeah, you can see here on the side walls it's far easier to see. He sprays it on and lets it expand a bit. He was very careful to keep each spray layer quite thin so that there wasn't too much heating, which is is a known problem with vans. And so he kept it very thin layers, and so the actual heat that is generated when it expands is quite low. He did have his men cutting some of the excess foam off, and this was obviously very easy once it had just been sprayed, but once it's set, it actually is a lot more difficult. So this is the finished product, and as Hanneke said in the beginning, it looks like a winter wonderland in there. It was amazing how white it was, and with age how it goes back to yellow again.
But this was a lot of fun to see it until we actually had to start working on it. Then it was not so much fun.
So here I went and bought this large knife thinking a big strong knife would help cut it, and you can see I'm battling there, and eventually I came to the conclusion that actually the very broad blade was hindering me because of all the friction it was causing. So we've landed up with a whole set of sample of knives, and in the end the one which worked the best, as you'll see here, we now have 2 shawarma knives, and then the one that works the best is Hanneke's bread knife.
And we eventually abandoned the whole cutting idea after John cut his hand quite badly. Thankfully we didn't need any stitches, but that put us back for about a week while we waited for his hand to heal. And after that we were a lot more careful, and we then used other ways of cutting, which we'll show shortly. But it made life a little bit more exciting, even though John didn't think so at the time.
Making snow in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Excuse the shaking, but as I've said in previous videos, that's me. I've got used to it. I don't know if everybody else does.
I actually thought John was very nervous when we went out on our first date. He was pouring wine and his hand was shaking all over the place. And we found out that is actually it's something that's been handed down from his family, sadly.
After all this cutting and that, we came to the conclusion that this was really just too much work and we needed to find a better way.
The one thing that we also did not cover were the rims of the doors. So you can see that this was also sprayed. Initially I thought it was going to be quite a job to get off, but I started using just a cloth scourer, and then it came off quite easily. So I managed to get it all black again. But it did look rather time consuming and hard work. You can see here also how it just was everywhere.
As it was a liquid, it ran very easily before it actually started expanding. And that was the biggest issue with it. So here we're getting geared up to actually, initially I started with a sander, but it created too fine a dust. So I then moved on to actually using an angle grinder with a wire brush, a cup brush attached to it. And we made snow. And we made bags and bags and bags of snow.
I actually had to vacuum clean it because it got quite thick and it was then quite difficult to walk around in it. As you can see, we are really very kitted up. Earmuffs for the sound and things to not leaving all these bits of snow flying around.
You'll see on the pipe how the static that's caused there has filled up those pipes. And if you watch carefully now, you'll see Hanneke trying to pull out a piece of that got stuck in the end of the pipe. The first 2 times she did this, she got shocked like anything because the static inside that pipe is phenomenal.
So that's my danger for the job. It's not trying to electrocute myself. Here John's trying to clean his goggles. Because it's quite hot as well inside. We had to close the doors.
We were trying to protect the environment and actually keep all the stuff in. So we would carefully vacuum it all before we actually opened the door.
You can also see that John's got quite a bit grey. I think this actually did cause quite a few extra grey hairs, this whole job.
Hanneke assures me she was watching my electric cable for me. So although it might look that I'm close, it's actually not.
I also initially tried to follow John with my vacuum cleaner, but it actually made no effect. So after a while, I actually just stopped and watched him, and when he finished and had a break, then I would clean up all the mess.
Like a dutiful wife cleaning up after her husband.
Yeah, definitely. As I say, that's my job of the van, is cleaning. Cleaning and painting and scraping.
Look at all the snow we're making now.
That was quite fun.
Until I got a decent headset on, the snow got everywhere and it really was difficult to breathe with it. Here you can see the volume that we are actually taking off. So what I actually did, the method I've used here, is first to dig and find the battens which I had put on the flooring and then flatten everything between that. So here we're taking off between 1 and 2 inches of foam, which I did explain to the chappie when he sprayed the thing I would have to do this, but he thought he was being quite generous in adding a lot extra for me. So while we do it, there's some therapeutic music for you in the background. One of the problems I did have to be careful with here was when I got close to the metalwork of the van, that I didn't let the brush take. See Hanneke very carefully taking that piece out the end, and she got shocked.
And sore, which I normally don't.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying I had to be very careful not to let the brush touch the body of the van because it took the paint off very quickly.
So if you remember from the last video when I was saying I was painting, that's what we had to do afterwards, is go through the van and just put a spray paint on all the bodywork that was taken off, just so that it doesn't rust.
You can see there's a piece of foam stuck in the end of the vacuum, and Hanneke is resisting pulling it out because she knows she'll get a shock if she does.
We actually decided not to fast forward this, just so that you can see the amount that is being taken off. And it's actually quite, well, I find it quite therapeutic to watch. We didn't want to rush this.
But we won't show you everything, otherwise you'll be here for days. This took us at least a couple of weeks to get the van into a shape where we could move on to the next part of the exercise.
And it was quite a chore. It was every day, it was okay. But we dress up, put on all our gear, get in, and just do it. But now looking back, it was worthwhile.
And we can feel the effectiveness of the insulation there. Now when we touch the floor in the early morning, you can feel where it's properly insulated and where it isn't. So here the floor has been completed. From a course point of view, I still needed to go over it, and when we put flooring in, actually trim off bits here and there. So we had a LED floodlight inside the van with us, so we could see what we were doing inside our cave. Here is one of the lessons we learned. The conduit, which is flexible conduit, we did not tape down carefully across the length of the conduit, and so the liquid foam actually got under it and lifted it. And you'll see later on Hanneke having to dig the conduit out so that it could fall in and not push the floor up. This is the roof. You can see
how beautiful it is.
Yes, beautiful, but also you can see the battens in there. But they are again an inch or so under the foam and all need to be dug out. There you can see the wall has been done already, been ground off. Now we get onto the roof, and here again I had to dig to find the rafters, and once I got them we could then even things out in between. One of the issues I did have was right at the back of the van there. I couldn't remember if I'd put a rafter right at the back of the van, so I actually had to go back and look at the video of the framing and found that there was one, so I knew I could dig for it.
This was also harder to do for John because he actually couldn't see half the time what he was doing. He had to change his headgear, and we eventually got one of these COVID masks.
Yeah.
Mask.
Face mask.
Not a face mask.
It's a face mask. Come on.
It's the screen. Anyway, so we got one
But
of
the
those.
other thing which made it more difficult was working overhead with the angle grinder. I'm not that fit, although this van is making me fitter as we go. With all the snow, this was like working in a blizzard. Working in a confined space like this, that angle grinder is quite loud.
And thankfully it's not summer yet, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do it.
Here you can see, even through the mask, I can hardly see what I'm doing. And Barley comes to say hello.
And this is me trying to just dig out the conduits. I had to use a screwdriver because if I used a knife I would actually cut into the conduit itself. So I just had to try and scrape it out and scrape under it so that they could flatten again. So when we put floorboards on it, there would be space for them to move.
And this is one area where I said you can feel the effectiveness of the insulation. In the morning, where those conduits go under the floor, you can feel that it's cold.
We tried to put some snow under it, but it didn't touch it. So here you can see the more or less finished product. The conduits are flexible again, so they can move.
What I'm doing here is actually marking, before I get all dressed up, which areas need to be trimmed slightly more.
Looks as if your hair's been trimmed too.
Yeah.
I think that was the barber though.
Yeah, and it's certainly not angle grinder. If you look at the roof there, you can see a lot of markings that I've done. And then the last panels that we did were these bottom ones. And by then we'd reasonably got the hang of it. You can see that the grinding is a lot smoother. Although there are areas there where there was not a lot of foam and the foam is not built up high enough, as high as I would have liked. So I may fill in with some spray foam out of a can. The other problem I had here was because the angle grinder kept getting full of snow, or the polyurethane foam, the on-off switch didn't always work, or kept slipping. So here's almost the finished product. Got a lot further. Done the one side panel. And the floor. So yeah, you can see our workspace. We think we've finished because we've taken most of the plastic out now. And we'll see where that's the hole for the vent, where we're going to put a vent in. One of the next jobs, which should have done before we did this, but you live and learn. So the next job now is actually paneling the van. Oh, and there's Jameela. She's been watching us all the time in her protective clothing. Now what I'm doing here is actually the final trimming of it. So to put the floor in, you have to go around all the edges and clean up all the little bits. Barley wasn't sure what's going on and why she couldn't get in. So she was moaning a bit.
Men have been busy measuring wood. I'm still trying to get off this wonderful foam that's everywhere. And it's Friday today, so if you can hear all the mosques in the background, it's their Friday prayers, which happens at about 1 o'clock on a Friday. And because we live in a Muslim country, we have mosques every 500 meters. So that's why you can hear them so loudly. They all have loudspeakers. So unfortunately, we don't understand Arabic, so we do miss the message that they have. But the mosques are normally full on a Friday. So we've landed up with a baby shark hanging on the palm tree. We think it might be the neighbor's little kid's baby shark, but it looks a little bit weird there, but we'll just leave it there for now.
That seems fine, that seems fine.
So the moment you've all been waiting for, ta-dang, ta-dang, this is Jameela's little baby, who we have now called Pikkie, and Pikkie is the Afrikaans word for a little child. We just decided that that sounded quite nice. We'd just like to thank all the viewers that did send in recommendations or suggestions for names. We actually quite like the name Jannah, which Hayat, who is our neighbor, had sent in, and we've decided to call our van Jannah. Originally we had Ajub, but we decided that Jannah actually means paradise or the Garden of Eden. And we were initially interested in calling our van Paradise anyway. John had looked it up and he came up with Beit al-Fadus, which means House of Paradise. But I just said to him that just sounds really very academic. So Jannah is a much nicer name, so we're going to call her Jannah. Just the word paradise, the paradise actually comes from our family. John's parents had a farm called Paradise, which was named after the paradise flycatcher, which used to inhabit the farm quite frequently. And so those of you who know us, you will have seen that John's company is called Paradise. I had Paradise Music at some stage. So the word paradise is quite special to us. And hopefully you'll see both Jameela and Pikkie now in all our videos looking after the van for us.
Thanks to everybody who's been watching and supporting us, and please once again don't forget to press the subscribe button and like if you like the videos. Thanks very much and see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.